Hello, everyone, and welcome to Final Fantasy Count Up Cast. I don't know why the co-hosts are already laughing, but we are going to be talking about Final Fantasy XIV this week. The three of us got together and played a little bit on the FFXIV server this last Saturday, and I want to get these two thoughts because they haven't played it in a while. They came back to a few new things. They came back to a few new concepts, and there's also an interview today that I want to get their thoughts about concepts for the game that may be coming soon. So I'm one of your hosts, Michael, Mr. Happy Poveromo, of course. Joining me is Scott tehMorag. And then Slack, I don't get to say his first name. I gradually work my way down. Like, I say my whole name. I use Morag's first name, and then I just skip all of Slack's names other than Slack. I mean, I don't need to introduce myself twice, do I?
Well, yeah.
Slackaholicus.
Do you actually know my name?
You told me.
Okay.
Yeah.
He doesn't remember, though.
That seems likely at this point, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way it goes. You told me, and then I was just like, that information doesn't... I know my name.
It's okay, you're not even saying the best part of my last name.
Yeah, I don't want to.
Hell no, he's not.
Nope. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. All right, let's see. Where is this right here? What are we doing? I'm just trying to start the show. There we go. All right. Now they could see us on my stream. And they could see us on your stream. They could see us on your stream. And that was both of you were yours individually. I just wanted to be completely clear about that. What did you do, Slack?
Just laughing at you.
Why are you laughing at yourself?
Because I look funny.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
To be fair. Happy is meme counter, +1. Anyway, so this last Saturday, we all made the agreement to head over to the FFXIV server, although while the original plan was for two of us to have new characters, we all ended up just, whatever. We all moved a character over there that we already had existing and played together. Slack was already there because we ended up on the FFXIV server. Well, how do we end up picking FFXIV? I just ask you both your servers and we just went with Slacks?
No, I moved over there because Avalon Star is there.
But I mean, why did we all go to FFXIV? Like, what led to us picking FFXIV as the server? Just I figure you both had a character on a server, and then we just picked one of you two.
No, he wasn't there. We were trying to decide, and I was like, we're going to FFXIV. I'm going there, so just roll up new characters. If you guys are gonna, because the plan was for you.
You
guys
had
to
a
roll
friend
up new
who told you to come to FFXIV.
Yeah, like I just said, Avalon Star is there. So
Why didn't you say Avalon Star when you? Because when you first said it, you said I have a friend.
Come on, we love Avalon.
I mentioned Avalon afterwards.
But
Why
I'm talking about 2 weeks ago.
Well, because I didn't know if you knew who Avalon Star was. I wasn't.
Of course we do.
Well, he does, but you might not.
I do.
All right, whatever. It doesn't matter. So I moved there because Avalon was there, and then I was like, well, if they're just going to make new characters, then I'll just use my guy, and we'll just go wherever I want.
The truth comes out.
So what you're saying is you bullied us into going there.
Oh yeah, I super bullied.
Very bullied.
Nah,
you said we're going there because I'm there, and then you give us a noogie. Like this.
And then a swirly.
Yeah, a noogie, and then you noogied our butt while swirling our head.
And then the party happened.
Incredibly uncomfortable.
There too.
And then I pull you back out, and I noogie the swirly water.
Ew, why would you do that to yourself? That's not good for you.
Because I can wash my hand really easily.
I can wash my head,
on
too.
Your shirt.
That's not the equivalent.
Well, it's not washed, but it's another.
This is a quality conversation.
All right,
I don't know where this is going anymore.
You know where it's going? It's going to the FFXIV server. That's where it's going.
Mom, Dad, stop fighting!
So we were there for about 5 hours. We played on the FFXIV server. We did a handful of things. We did a dungeon. We did a trial. We did a few trials, and we did the trial roulette. And then we did a bunch of Palace of the Dead. So first of all, how did it feel coming back to Final Fantasy XIV for you guys?
It was good. It felt like I kind of came in. I knew that there was a lot of content then to go and play off of, and I could go around and just pick up anything I wanted and just continue playing kind of where I left off.
Slack?
For me, I actually came back a few months ago, quite a few months ago now, and I've been playing it on and off since then. And since I came back, I've gotten through the pre-Heavensward content, which took me months and months to finish. And then I've started up the Heavensward stuff, and everything feels really, really good. I like most of the changes they've made. I wish that they would have pared down the pre-Heavensward content a little bit, because that really drags on very hard.
Oh, and we're going to have a lot to talk about because of an interview that came out today regarding that, and I'll be getting your thoughts on it a little bit later.
Yeah.
So, first of all, we did Palace of the Dead, which is something I've been talking to you guys about for a while before we did the 14th thing. and it was a new piece of content that came out about 6 months ago, where it's a semi-randomly generated dungeon. Your armor doesn't matter, your level on the outside doesn't matter, nothing you do on the outside other than the job you enter as matters, and all the progress you make in there is the progress that matters. How did it feel, Palace of the Dead? Because it's very different from the other types of content that are usually promoted in Final Fantasy XIV.
I'd say that it was a different piece of content that's promoted in MMOs in general. It was a very unique piece of content. It was fun. It didn't feel like I was behind in the curve at all, and I could just jump in and have fun and start playing.
Yeah, in the long run, the only thing that's been like, oh god, I'm holding my team back is when right now I'm leveling up my rogue class, but I don't have my ninja unlocked for it. So even though I have it at level 60 right now in one of my saves, I still don't have any of my ninja abilities. So I would have to get my rogue up to 30 to go get the soul crystal so I can continue doing that. Aside from that, it feels wonderful. It feels like it takes a lot of ideas from traditional roguelikes where you start out at low level and it's very accelerated to get through the content, but as soon as you die, a bunch of your work gets reset. Not as much as a roguelike would, but still the same kind of idea.
And is it something that you could see yourself doing a lot? Because one of the big things is that ultimately there's only one goal in Palace of the Dead. Kill bad guys, next floor. Kill bad guys, next floor. Kill bad guys, next floor. Boss. Kill bad guys, next floor. Kill bad guys, next floor. Did it feel wrong or bad at all that was just the primary objective, or is it just like, hey, that's MMOs in general?
I think that the randomness of it and just the way that they keep like breadcrumbing you along, like, oh, here's another little thing. Oh, there's a treasure in this room that might have something. Oh, you're getting to the next floor. You're getting close to the boss. How's your inventory look? How is your ether pool looking right now? Oh, your ether pool. You've almost gotten to the point where you can go out and get a level 255 or whatever the level.
235 and 255.
Okay.
There's two available.
Okay. And I mean, there's just one of those things where there's always something waiting for you just a little bit further, a little shining for you to go after and grab. And that's really, really nice game design. It lends itself to causing some burnout fairly quickly sometimes, but overall, I can definitely see myself playing it quite a bit.
It's actually kind of funny that you go and say burnout, because like I've always seen burnout always based off of the player themselves. They're the ones that kind of do it to themselves, but at the same time, is it up to the developer to find a way to make it so then psychologically the player doesn't get burnout? So it's like one of those balances that you have in a lot of MMOs nowadays. It's like, do you offer it to random chance, or do you just make it so it just be farmed up as much as possible? And there's actually one thing that kind of leads into the next thing I want to talk about with Palace of the Dead, is that how the save system works for it. They don't say as soon as you reach level 50, you can always go into level 50. Like you have to have that save that continues on moving forward, right? And if you don't have that save, then you can't get into it.
So after you unlock 51 to 100, you can start at 51. But
okay,
you can never start.
So there are actual checkpoints. You don't have to keep us going the whole way.
Right. There are benefits to keeping the save files there. Obviously, you would carry your commanders from your 1 to 50, any you collected there. If you start fresh at 51, you're starting with no commanders, which isn't bad. 51 to 60 is very equivalent to 1 to 10, sort of in difficulty, because it's a second tier almost, as opposed to a continuation.
Yeah.
But it has higher ether pool requirements and stuff like that. So enemies in there can beat you pretty good if you're not prepared for it.
That's my bad then. So yeah, there is nice that they do have those checkpoints. Okay, so my only problem.
You just can't checkpoint anywhere between 1 and 51. Like, you can't start at floor 21 if you want to. You can't start at floor 71 if you want to. It's got to be 1 or 51.
So what are the other checkpoints in the system right now then?
That's it. 1 and 51.
1 and 51. Holy crap! And it goes up to
200. But we'll talk about why it does that for floor 200 in a little bit. Slack, have you gotten to floor 51 yet, or have you just been messing around the first 50 floors?
I got to the boss of floor 50, and we wiped.
She's a fun one.
Yeah.
Funny story about her. Her story has been probably one of the darker ones of Final Fantasy XIV. She is a character that you meet outside of the first 3 dungeons as part of an adventurer party that's trying to go in there. And her husband or her fiance dies because he outranges her heals and loses his head.
Wow.
And she goes through the effort to resurrect him with, some form of void magic. And then you kill her, and now she's here in Palace of the Dead.
Huh.
Wow.
Yeah. It's very
That
dark. She is a very dark story, that character. And sometimes you see her ghost in the towns, like just haunting the towns kind of deal. If you just like stand still long enough, you might see her like off in the brush, like. It's really creepy.
Weird.
She's got a really creepy story. Okay, but so you'll probably get to that soon-ish, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
Get to the final.
If I end up
50
playing,
floors.
the servers are going to be down tonight, aren't they?
I believe so. It's
Yeah.
Monday going into Tuesday, so they tend to do maintenances during that time.
Tonight or tomorrow, maybe.
Probably late tonight, PDT or PST. It's not PDT anymore. PST into early morning, PST. So yeah, but not the time that like it's the time Morag plays it because he's a sicko. In terms of the hours that he sleeps. Do you play it at 2 a.m. PST?
Yeah.
God, what's wrong with you guys?
That's when I'm awake. Those are my hours.
Well, stop being awake and start being asleep. Maybe you'd be on time for this goddamn show if you weren't.
I was on time.
Oh.
Not according to my Twitter.
No, they were surprised that I was awake. That was it.
There's a reason they were surprised.
And yet here I was. I have slept late like one time.
Yeah.
That leads to.
One. It's like one.
It feels like one. I don't remember. I was too busy sleeping.
Oh, great.
But I'm sure it did. Okay, so you guys got to experience Palace of the Dead, but Palace of the Dead doesn't. I don't know if you guys felt this way. It doesn't really give you the whole traditional feel, like getting a. I don't know how you feel about learning classes and jobs in Palace of the Dead, because that's kind of one of the points that it's not really abundantly clear how you're intended to play.
It's everything's a little bit fast paced, especially when you're with the party. So if you get a new ability pop up, you're like, "Whoa, what do I do with this? Where should I put this on my bar? Where should I fit this into my rotation?" And then for the most part, you don't have that much of a rotation because you're busy just using your
Murdering.
first 3 abilities, doing one combo string, and then the thing is dead if you're in a party.
Yeah. That was a problem because like going in with Lancer and then just getting all these bills, like I don't know what
To be
do
fair, Lancer is like nothing until level 26. So you're...
but even then, if it even is still nothing, I should have been able to figure out the optimal combo like right off the get-go, and I wasn't able to. I had to be told, and then I had to sit and actually read each one. It's like, okay, so why is that? Okay, so this is why it's not good until this level.
Yeah, it's a good thing we had that discussion. I was just curious because that's this was a complaint back when Fates were used as the popular leveling method, where nobody actually learned how to play by using them. This sticks you in a somewhat more structured scenario because you're in a party, but it's still not a traditional 1 tank, 1 healer, 2 DPS party most of the time. You could set it up that way if you wanted to, but sometimes you're going with 4 DPS, and there's no positional requirements, enemies die super fast, you have all these items to carry. I don't know if you guys felt if that's a problem for players primarily leveling through Palace of the Dead, or if it's enough for the people who are going through the main story to pick up on those general ideas.
For me personally, I can, after I get the chance to go sit down and look at all my abilities, I can reasonably say, all right, I want to be doing this here, I want to have this ability over here, and use that sometimes. But, that's for me. For other people, I definitely ran into a few people in there who clearly had no idea what they were doing, even though they already had 4 level 60s or more.
It definitely comes down to even I think Riot's having the same issues with League of Legends, where they want to ban people and reprimand people that aren't playing the game correctly or to the meta. If their team says don't be this person and they want to play that person, they're going to ban that. They're going to basically penalize that person for not being a team player. So in MMOs now, you're going to start having the content that's really easy to get into, but there's no way for you to learn how to play that class the way you're supposed to play it. It's even with WoW, with Battlegrounds, it came down to just rolling your hand over your keyboard for a lot of classes because that's what you had to be. Specs meant nothing. It was just get in, have fun with your class, and that was that. But people hated it, and that's why they made rated Battlegrounds, so people could actually try and have fun with it. But so even in MMOs now, how do you end up making easily presentable content that you can just get in and join, but yet still have your character easily enough pull its own weight without knowing much about it. It's a real problem for almost any gameplay nowadays.
Well, that's actually, so I told you guys that there was that huge interview that came out, and there were two very important points that I want to hit that relate directly to Palace of the Dead. Because Palace of the Dead, it seems that you guys are in agreement that there's a concern over players learning how to play the game while leveling through Palace of the Dead. And also...
Yes and no.
Yes and no.
To make my answer on that short, I mean, some people just are always going to be stupid no matter how they level up. They're not going to get the game, so... It's Palace of the Dead.
It just doesn't encourage you to try. I think that's the less thing. It doesn't encourage it, but it's not like it's stopping you from doing it.
There's nothing that educates you while you're playing.
Yeah. Okay. Other than you seeing more ability, one of the benefits you do get is being able to see level 60 abilities when you're not yet 60, and sort of get a feel for what they do prior to taking them into other content. But it's still not. You're still not going to see the optimal usage of said. Unless you're a healer. Healer at Palace of the Dead is great because people just run all over the fucking place and die, and you can learn how to spot heal all over the place. That's about the only one. I'm sure that with us stepping on traps all Saturday, that the poor person who we brought with us learned that the hard way.
Catherine Beckett, yeah.
Catherine, I love you. Thank
you for the heals.
So the first point that I want to hit on, and this is probably the bigger point of the two that came out of this 8-page interview, it's an idea that's been rotating around for a while since World of Warcraft did it. It's the idea of what's called a jump potion. And it's not a potion that gives your character the ability to jump. Final Fantasy XI could have used that like 10 years ago. It's a potion that allows you to skip a portion of the leveling process and the story quests and whatever quests that are considered mandatory along the way. Like, let's say you're level 1, you just bought the game, and the new expansion's coming out, and here's this jump potion so you can get to the old level cap before the new level cap comes out. And we'll give you your class, we'll give you your job, just one of them to 60. Yeah. We'll give you all the skills, so you don't have to go back and do all the class quests and job quests. And we'll also make sure you're caught up on the main story, so you don't need to grind out main story quests prior to the expansion actually being out. That is what the overall thought is on the jump potion of what it will actually end up being should it be implemented. Where's your stance on that?
I don't think I have a problem with it. The way that they handle it in WoW is that your amount of skills is pared down pretty hard nowadays. A few of them are base class skills, and then you get a few from your spec. And overall, the action, your hotbar isn't that full of stuff. So what they do when you use that jump potion, you go into a little area where you're training, and anybody who has just used their jump potion equivalent is also doing that training sequence. And so the NPCs are telling you, use this ability to do this. This ability works together with this, and so on. One of the problems that WoW kind of has is that it forces you into a specific spec, which is a little bit annoying. So when you do that jump, like as a shaman, you are forced to be elemental. You don't get to do it as restoration, and you don't get to do it as enhancement. There are other two specs. Which limits the usefulness of it a little bit, but it still gives you the general idea of this is how this particular spec plays at least, and a few of the abilities cross over to the other specs as well. And we probably wouldn't have that same issue if something like that happened in 14, and if they did go with the training route, because you would only be leveling up one class, and one class has one specific thing to do. So they'd be able to get around that in 14 at least.
What about you, Morag? What's your stance on?
I think it's good stuff, but this is like kind of the one thing that I love and hated about WoW is, the paring down and the destroying of half of the different spells that were on the bars. For the people that were able to handle, I guess you could say, all the different abilities, but even then some people felt that a lot of the abilities were completely redundant. They just didn't fit in rotation. I know for many classes, like the creators of those classes ended up making all of them useful in some way to increase and boost your DPS, but it was a little bit more of a mind game. Like, I still remember to this day, like even like monk rotation is insanity, even in F14, or at least it was back when I was playing in 2.0. Has it been cleaned up at all?
We're gonna get into that because that's actually a very important point. Another point that's made in this interview, but most jobs were given just a few more buttons in Heaven's Ward, but Monk is always considered one of the lowest button press intensive jobs, like the lowest button bloat job in terms of what you actively use compared to most other jobs other than maybe Black Mage and Paladin.
Oh, really?
So it was more about the constant move from the rear to the flank to the rear to the flank, which people have kind of eased into the idea of now, especially because a lot of people are a little bit more educated now. I don't know if you guys noticed this. In Palace of the Dead, it's not present because the enemies are all what are called omnidirectional. Your position doesn't matter. You'll get the bonuses regardless of the side you're on.
Oh, I didn't know that part. I
I
noticed
did
that the
not know
indicator was gone, but I didn't know that they just made it omnidirectional.
Yeah, those enemies are omnidirectional, which means your positionals will affect, because they expect that if you're there solo, it's literally impossible to do positionals, or if you're with 4 DPS, you're not always going to have it facing the same direction. So they've done that with a few bosses, like bosses that only have a front, for example. They make most of those omnidirectional nowadays because you can't get behind the boss. It's literally impossible.
Like
Cloud of Darkness. Yeah, Keeper of the Lake, Cloud of Darkness. Those are a few of them. But one thing that so where was I going with that? So Monk, low button bloat job, but that's actually another big point here that they bring up alongside the jump potion is skill bloat in Final Fantasy XIV in general.
Yeah.
Pairing down was something that happened a lot in World of Warcraft, and it was a huge discussion of what was going to happen in Stormblood. And they even said we're going to be reassessing and revaluing abilities, and they should ease the difficulty of the jobs. This interview clarifies that difficulty should stay the same even when new abilities are added in. So it's not going to be pared down, it's just not going to be moved up even more. And I think, now, how do you guys feel about how many buttons you have to press in Final Fantasy XIV compared to other games in general? Because that's another point of the jump potion. If you throw someone at level 60, it's not like they only have to know 3 or 4 abilities like World of Warcraft.
Well,
they
it's
get thrown in with 20,
funny
30
too,
abilities.
from that point of view. It's like if you take a look at almost any RPG that you end up playing nowadays, like I'm going to say it's just a regular RPG, JRPG, you have so many skills that you don't even know what to do with half of them. Like there's some, like most games that I played through the count up, I didn't use like 80% of the stuff that they gave you. You
don't need, there's very little incentive. You can easily follow into a routine. With
so, but at least it gave choice as well too to different ways to play it. Now in an MMO aspect, you're always being, it's always drilled into you have to do the best you possibly can. So you don't get choice then, which sucks. So you're driven by a community for progression, no matter what. So you have to do it the right way or else you're shit. Which sucks. It sucks that mentality exists. You can't play a multiplayer game and enjoy it the way that you want to enjoy it. You have to do it the way that the community says you have to play it. So if you go and pare it down, are they going to be any better than, like, they're just making it easier to ease into the community. So really you're taking away from gameplay and creating more of the social aspect. Is that a good thing? It is for your MMO if you want the social aspect to keep moving forward. Is it good for gameplay? I don't think it is, because it gives zero choice to how you want to play your character. Gotta progress forward.
And 14's even more guilty since there's only one spec for jobs.
Well, granted, like that's the one thing that I really, really, really enjoyed 1.0 is that every character, as soon as you level it up, that skill could be used everywhere and anywhere. There was no restrictions except for like penalties to how potent it was. With this, you only have some skills that you can bring across from class to class, which is just like, okay, so you cut down on that a bit. I can understand why, because again, it gets confusing to people. How are you going to be able to play the class the best at that point?
What about you, Slack? How do you feel about the button bloat? Especially coming back after all that time.
I feel like there's just a few, they could take out a few buttons for Monk that are just there. It's like, I hit this once in every blue moon. It doesn't feel that useful. I don't feel that good when I have to hit it. Once I get up to the omnidirectional content, maybe it'll be a little bit better. But as it is right now, getting up through all this content, it's been a lot of trying to pay attention to just focusing on positioning. And then it's like, where am I in my rotation? I had to move away from the boss. I'm worrying about my greased lightning stacks falling off. The fact that they haven't fixed that for monks is probably the most frustrating thing for the class when there's just 15 seconds where you're not able to fight anything. And you're playing
Well,
catch-up
they give
on
you tools
DPS
for that
upgrades.
post Heaven's Word.
Post Heaven's Word? Okay.
They give you the ability to form shift out of combat so you can start
Oh,
in
yeah,
Coral
no,
stance.
you get that during Heaven's Word, I think.
Well, I'm sorry. I meant after,
Yeah.
post A Realm Reborn is what I meant to say.
Okay,
You know, there is one MMO. There's actually two MMOs that I can think of in the last couple of years. One more recent than another. Aeon was an MMO that had come out a long time ago. But they're kind of the first guys that made it so then when you pushed a button, another skill would show up on your screen to go and say, hey, you should use this skill to combo in with your last skill. So it kind of led you through your rotation in order to do that. And then Black Desert takes it a whole extra step forward. It makes it so then you have actual button combinations on your keyboard to do certain skills in an order, which was really cool because it allowed the player to be educated not based on, well, do I use this skill to this skill to this skill, but instead you actually have combinations of how you should be pressing your keyboard instead. Again, a different visual way of playing your character, I guess, is an easy way of kind of determining that. And instead of, again, like I said, just pressing, well, number 1, the number 6, my mouse key.
Damn, if you were doing a combo that goes from 1 to 6, man, you gotta work on them keybinds.
Yeah, that's the thing though. It's like, whereas like stuff like Black Desert and Aeon made it so then all of your keys made sense. And it would pop up on the screen and show you should use this ability next because you use this last ability. It combos extremely well with it. And it's more that educational learning process visually versus having to read each individual thing to find out, well, this works with that works with this to that. And it's something that I think even 14 can end up benefiting from.
Well, 14 does do I think Monk's actually the only one that doesn't get this. I don't remember. But they do dotted outlines.
No, Monk gets
Monk
that.
does.
Monk, I don't remember. I haven't gotten to play my Monk much lately. I don't remember the stats. Yeah, but combos do that in 14. It's just there's certain synergies that you still have to read.
Yeah, you have to look into like figuring out the minutia of the rotation is still a bit more complicated than just this combos to this combos to this.
It's all about
to
those
this.
off global cooldowns, man.
Yeah, it's just finding a way to better educate how your class works. And even with a reduction of button bloat, you still don't fix that. You just make it easier to understand what it is, but you're still not solving the actual problem of how do you educate the player.
And with that in mind, how does the jump potion fit into that? Because here's my motto. I don't mind the jump potion for one reason. The argument is that it increases the number of players who don't know how to play. I've seen a great number of players who have played through all those levels, and it's not any different. My thing is, if somebody actually wants to know how to play, they go out of their way to learn it. Doesn't matter if they're at 60 immediately or if they had to level 1 to 60 to begin with.
No,
I had in my Palace of the Dead runs last night, one of the people I ran into multiple times in a row was, of course, a Lol Dragoon, and he kept running off and dying. Like, consistently. He would run into a mob of enemies by himself. He would run off to a separate branch by himself. And I don't think he was using potions any of the time. I don't think he was doing anything to help survive.
Sounds
And
like a
in
bot.
chat, he was like, I've never had this bad of luck before. And I was like, that's not luck. That's just you playing bad. And it's just, this guy had probably 4 level 60s, I want to say. And he was just not playing well.
Did you know
Even
who it
though
was
he's
personally?
leveled up so many other things. What?
Did you know who they were personally?
No, it was a random from the Duty Finder.
Unfortunate.
What, so you could give him a stern talking to?
Tried to pull him aside and be like, listen, that's not luck. I need you to learn, okay? You've got this many level 60s. How did you even survive that long?
But see, it's funny. It's like a simple thing there. It'd be like just the party saying, "Hey, follow us. This is where we're going." But he goes off and he says, "No, I'm playing on my own in this group activity."
Well, the thing with Palace is that you can go off and solo some of the side areas while you guys split up, but he wasn't doing it properly. He would like pull extra enemies. He would run into the middle of a room to fight something, and he wouldn't
Blow
use
up a
his
trap.
potions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, bad luck.
That's like when you're playing, going back to League of Legends. That's like when you're playing a multiplayer game and you like fuck up horribly, and you say that was bad luck. Like that's something that's really common in like competitive
I
games.
haven't played this bad in such a long time, guys. I'm so
Unlucky.
sorry.
Unlucky. That's what it reminds me of. Unlucky.
But it's true though, and it's again trying to find a way to play the game your own way in a group game with all the social structures and it doesn't work. It's almost impossible.
So one of my favorite parts, and I think this guy gets erased. Apparently, a single staff member at the Final Fantasy XIV development team, a single staff member, raised his hand one day and said, "We need an intermediate hall."
Hell yeah, put it in.
Because we had we got to introduce the Hall of the Novice,
which is fun. I enjoyed it. I just need to read better.
It's basic, and that's like MMOs first. Like, if this is, you don't even know what roles do in MMOs when it comes to Hall of the Novice. That's what that was for. So it covers the basics. It doesn't tell you how to play your job, but it covers what a DPS is supposed to do in combat, a tank is supposed to do, a healer is supposed to do. Intermediate is for actually teaching people their jobs to some degree, and they said they're definitely leaning towards it at this point. Do you think that both Hall of the Novice and the Intermediate Hall are mandatory? Should be mandatory? Should Jump Potion become available?
With the Jump Potion,
I'm in favor of a strong yes.
Yeah,
I'd go and say that if you were to use it for the very, very, very first time, you have to go through it for whatever class you're doing. If you use it a second, third, or fourth time, no.
That would be an expensive fucking life to do that 4 times, because I can't imagine these things will be cheap.
$30.
No, probably more than that.
You think they're gonna be more? What are they for WoW?
in
60?
WoW, I think they're 50 or 60.
I think they're 60 in WoW, which is unreasonable because it's at level 100. Here it's level 60, but we have 10 extra patches of story to consider in its value of quests you would have to do that may or may not even give you experience points, depending on what your status is when you complete them.
Fair enough. I'd say, no matter what, as soon as you use it, you don't actually get the levels yet. You go into the hall, and you end up going through it, and then you get your levels at the very end. Or you get EXP as you go through this event.
Well, that's the way WoW does it, is they don't even give you all your skills at once when you use a Jump Potion. They gradually introduce them to you as part of the process for your Jump Potion. They're like, here's your first skill, here's your second skill, here's your third skill. Yeah. And then by the time you're done with the entire process, then you have all your skills for level 100.
Yeah, I'd be down for that. Do it. And you know what? Honestly, I'm actually surprised that no MMO has done one for raiding yet. How do you be a good raid member? How do you be a good party member?
Well, I think Hall of the Novice tries to get you to follow the normal, what a party member should be doing, like what your role should be trying to accomplish. Like, always make sure you're following the tank's, the tank's target, which Slack knows is a problem. It's like, I'm attacking this one, and you have a weapon that's 10 levels higher than mine. Fucking stop it.
Please stop.
Hey, listen, even when I did follow your target, the 10 level difference thing was a bit of a problem.
Yeah, I know. Trust me. I was there.
I hope. If not, then it would have explained a little bit more, but okay, yeah, because these were 3 pretty big points that were hit on that interview, and with Palace of the Dead kind of fixing some issues with the leveling process being faster, but it doesn't fix all these other problems. I'm glad to have gotten your perspective on that as someone who's literally played it since 1.0 came out. God rest my soul.
Poor bastard.
I quit after 2 months after I got my first level 50. Is it sad that it took 2 months? I was one of like the top 20 people who hit level 50.
Yes, it is sad. Months. I'm surprised that there were 20 people playing.
Man,
What?
No, I was just gonna say, it's like the like some of the stuff I loved about 1.0 is like some of the stuff that they did in FF11. It's just like, it was a very expansive world with lots of different areas. With areas you walk into, you just get slapped down. But the worst part was, oh my god, that leveling system just hurt my head. The questing system.
Well, speaking of questing, I mean, a lot of the point of this Jump Potion isn't even about, like, we've been talking about the whole job functionality, and it's not even, we haven't even really touched on the fact that the other part is you're skipping the story.
Actually, I was thinking, is just like, if you were to do that, like, would they end up, like, because we're trying to watch all that story, like, I'm just thinking, okay, use the Jump Potion, you do all your skill stuff, and what do they do to try and catch you up on the story? Do they end up just giving you all the cutscenes in like a theater mode, or do they create like with Mass Effect 2 for the PS3, they created like the interactive comic to go and catch you up on the story.
Well, that one was an interactive comic. This 14 story is not as interactive, so.
No, that is true, but but the point is that they put it in a nice condensed format.
Last time on Final Fantasy XIV.
Yeah, if they did something like that and put that in a theater mode, I think that'd be really good. A way to catch you up on it. Just put it right on the main menu.
You don't have an issue with the fact that it basically allows you to skip the entire. I mean, because let's be honest.
I'll go.
What was your
YouTube
least
video
favorite
if
part?
you
What
don't
was your
mind
least favorite part about catching up to Final Fantasy XIV?
Pre-Heavensward content.
Now, when you say content specifically,
The first 70 or so missions where
so they were
it's
story
just
quests.
story quests, yeah.
That's my
Lots
point.
and lots of. If they would just bring that down, like cut out a lot of the drawn-out fluff of go fight a primal, go fight another one, someone else summon a primal, now go fight it, which happens about 100 times in a row. I wouldn't mind it so much.
That's hyperbole, Slack.
You want more animification, so then it actually feels like there's reason.
You want them to
for
make
why
like
you're doing
they
it.
want them to make you want them to Dragon Ball Kai it.
Yeah. Just have a reason for why you're doing it instead of like, oh no, another big bad dude in the village. We gotta go take him out. Just have a reason.
But that's a big draw to the jump potion. Is people are like I would love to start playing again, but fuck, last I played was 2.1. I don't want to do 2.2, 2.3, 2.4, 2.5, 3.0, 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, 3.4, 3.5.
Am I
At
crazy?
least with
I want to do
Heavensward
that.
story stuff, it's been a little bit better. It hasn't felt as drawn out, and I still feel like I'm actually progressing because it's not content that's all locked at level 50. I didn't mind that area that much.
When you do the side quests, you do.
I got through a lot of them so far. It wasn't that bad.
Do you like baskets?
Baskets are okay.
Do you like Kupo nuts?
I hate it.
Do you like hide and seek?
The only thing I hated about that area was that it was layers, so you couldn't tell where the hell the mission marker was at, and you're like, I'm walking around, I don't see anything. And then I go back into the cave, and there's another path to get up to the top of the thing, and I'm like, you.
Well, that's annoying that they don't have a way to tell you if it's up or down.
They do,
Do they?
but not for the ones where they say look in this general area for stuff.
Oh, okay, yeah.
They'll tell you if a quest or like the next NPC to talk to is up or down, but they're not gonna tell you in a, like that circle. Like here's the area it could be in. Good luck.
You know, it's funny over time, over the course of MMOs, like all the way from like, you know, quest tracker or like just doing quests, or sorry, let's even take it back further. Just kill monsters to let's do quests to get EXP to here's the quest that you want to try and get your EXP from, and this is where you have to go. Full on quest markers for it. And then now we're at a point where like I don't want to do any quests. I just want to do content with my friends. We've gone full bore.
Through the looking glass, people.
Well, that looking glass is looking mighty dark. Like I can't see through it. It's just.
I'm wondering where MMOs are going to be in another 10 years at this point. Because right now it feels like there's
Dude,
what are you
virtual reality MMOs.
What are you gonna do after group content? What's their after group content?
Just wait till you're glamoring in virtual reality. You look down and you're just like, yeah.
Yeah, League's already done it.
I'll be-
Skate for everyone.
I'll be in my Subligar and I'll just be like, yeah.
Don't shake that moneymaker. No.
That's 10 years from now. So
I think this was inevitable. Is like as soon as people started figuring out that MMOs and games are just taking what you already are supposed to be doing in life, but doing it in a virtual space, and people are like, "Shit, I don't want to do this. I just want to play with my friends."
it's like in Back to the Future 2, where he's like, you have to use your hands.
This is a baby's game.
Phrasing, you have to use your hands. Phrasing. All right. Sorry. Thank you, Archer. All right. I'm gonna have scales and boobs. Yes, you will. Okay. You're gonna be like, cool. All right. Yeah. That's. I don't know if they'll take it. That's a lot of touch control phrasing. Yeah. Okay. So those are some big points we hit on. We also did some more basic levels of content, which were like the 4-man. We did the Sestasha dungeon, or we did Copperbell, or whatever it was. We also got Morag his relic quest done, his old school relic quest done, which was Garuda and Titan.
You finished my 2.0 content. Thank you.
No, we didn't finish nearly all of you. Oh yeah, 2.0. Not all right. Yeah. Not. Well, we didn't beat Coil for you.
True enough. No Coil. We finished the entry to Coil content.
One of the big things that's spoken about a lot in 14 is dungeon design and trial design, and the way in which they're still designed pretty much in the same way. The way you experience that 2.0 stuff, it's still very much the same experience now, even in 3.4, where your dungeons are run through, boss, done, and then boss, done. There's like treasure chests that have like bullshit in them off to the side. Sometimes it's an accessory or something, whatever. And then the trials are, hey, I'm here, boss fight, 6 minutes later, dead.
I again, like, I don't know what else you do past that. I just don't know. Like WoW is like probably one of the main pioneers in trying to do this, because if you look back at WoW, like BRD.
Oh God, don't talk to me about BlackRock stuff.
But BRD, and if you even look at BlackRock Spire, like
Ubers.
BlackRock Spire was upper and lower.
Loopers.
And they finally ended up splitting that. But even BRD had like 4 different paths you could go through the entire instance. And there's no way that you'd usually do that in one sitting back when it first had come out. And they end up cleaning it up and making it simpler. But it just goes to show, like, they try to create these very dynamic worlds that are instanced, but yet people didn't like them. I thought BRD and uppers and lowers were some of the coolest instances or dungeon experiences that have been made in some of these MMOs as of late. But now we end up getting these very basic paths, very linear, go through it, you're done. And even then, when you talk about trials too, again, WoW was one of the main guys that pioneered this too, with the whole trials of Commander.
Well, Trials of the Commander is different, because a trial here is literally you zone in, there's a boss fight, you leave.
Well, that's what it was in WoW too, is that it was 6 bosses in a row in a small arena.
Yeah, but this isn't even 6 bosses. This is literally the same boss, and if you want, you could do it as many times as you can overnight.
Yeah.
There's no journey to get to the boss. You're just at a boss, and that's a lot of the raids do that nowadays too, where it's just like, all right, I zoned into the final tier and boss in my.
I know, but it's interesting though. Is like, what is it that people want then? What do they want out of it? Like, are they upset with trials and how they are? Are the bosses actually boring? When they're going through a dungeon, are people actually enjoying themselves? What is it that people actually enjoy about dungeons? Why are they here? Why are they doing this content? And that's something like, as a game designer, you have to ask yourself, but realistically, is there anything else that you can really diverge off of this? If you start creating multiple paths, people are like, it's too hard. I got to do all this extra stuff. It's like, even nowadays too, when you're even just trying to, like, I have this problem with my community sometimes, is that I go and say, hey, check out Twitter. Like, I don't use Twitter.
I think the big thing is, like, they want bosses to feel like they're part of the world and not their own, like, it feels like bosses are very separated from the world itself. When you just walk in and all of a sudden you're like, I'm in this giant castle, but I'm just going to be in this one room for like,
I think you need the variety. You need to like, I think if 14 introduced like a big branching dungeon where there's wings and different wings have a different boss, and then you can come back to them later, and all this, I think that would be fine.
That would basically be Labyrinth of the Ancients.
And that would be like SM Scarlet Monastery too, kind of tried doing that too. And yeah, no, it's trying to find ways to make it feel more immersive without it being disconnected. I can completely understand that. But at the same time, what else can you end up doing to try and find it to make it a complete feeling? What else can you do at that point?
What can you do without upsetting the people who run the content over and over again?
And to scale it for hundreds, thousands, tens, millions of people playing your game. How do you scale that? Do you start instancing people? That's what WoW just started doing then. They started flat out instancing people on the world map. You couldn't even see your friends unless you're in a party at that point.
Slack, you've been awfully quiet because MMOrag's been very...
I'm ranty!
Very
well,
ranty.
I mean, I just think that, there's the variety. I think that in 2.0, there's a lot of good work that they did there with the primals and making the fights, introducing new versions of the same fight while introducing new mechanics and stricter mechanics. I think that they did that very well, and I think if they can keep developing things like that, but again, there's that problem of burnout of like, we've seen them do this exact thing before. It's the same fight with some tweaked mechanics. You're going to have that kind of a backlash to it as well if you just keep doing the same thing. But the course that they're going, they can introduce the fights, introduce harder versions of the fights, make them harder in all sorts of different ways, introduce completely new mechanics. That's always a good idea. And then kind of use that to build space between when that content originally releases and when the newer content comes out. Whenever the new fight comes out, the new dungeon, the new raid, the new whatever. I feel like this is one of the reasons I like 14 is because I like the way that they've developed a lot of their end game stuff. I like the system that they use. I like it a lot more than WoW. A lot more than WoW's current setup.
Are you gonna like it in 5 years?
I mean, how often does anyone play a game for 5 years? That's the thing. Yes.
Yeah, I mean the days of
rare.
that have been pretty numbered, though.
Yeah.
And it's just interesting that again, like, and I think this is a bigger problem, like where the developers have to start investing more into dev time to try and keep up to the needs of, like, you can't just put out content nowadays and hope that it's going to end up lasting, because it used to. But now people are very picky because there's more content that's out there. You have to keep fresher. You have to find a way to keep people more engaged. If not, they just run off and they go do something else afterwards. But that's almost for any entertainment, game, movie, TV show, live stream. You always have to try and find a way to keep people engaged longer.
I feel like the age of live streaming has created longevity for MMOs in some sense. I feel like that connection you can make with other people.
Well, MMOs, streaming has allowed MMOs to feel like they're still more populated, because to feel like
have you seen RuneScape's directory? They got so many people in that one.
Yeah, and that RuneScape keeps putting out new content every once in a while where it gets this surge in interest again. They're introducing an Iron Man character creation pretty soon, where the character, if
once it dies,
you're dead.
It's dead. When you said Iron Man, I was like, what's Tony Stark doing? And then I was like, that's not what he meant.
That's not it at all.
And then I thought of the World of Warcraft achievement where you have to cap the flag 3 times without dying. I had a friend rob me of that achievement once. I was pretty fucking pissed. Yeah, I was pretty angry. I robbed him. I'm sorry, I robbed him of it. He robbed me of a different one.
I think one of the other things that 14 does well, but it only works like when the content drops, is the story. It does the storyline stuff better than any MMO on the market by far. The voice acting, the writing, all of it comes together to actually feel like an interesting, intriguing storyline. So to go back to the skipping the story thing, it's going to hurt it some, yes, but going forward, I don't know how much it adds when new content drops. How do you feel about that, Happy?
When the story drops, because I stream it, I like to keep it spoiler-free, so I actually skip all the cutscenes. Normally, as a player, I would watch them all, because that is a big part of the game for me. But out of respect for the people who are watching from work who just want to see the dungeon and the raid, but I got to do the story to get to that point, then I'll skip any cutscenes for them. Otherwise, I feel like that is one of the key aspects. That's what made me like Final Fantasy games in the first place.
Yeah.
And if you're skipping it, it's questionable if you'll even play the MMO for long enough, and if you only took the option because you didn't have to do it. Because, like you said, that's a big part. So much of a part of it that I have to question how long somebody can enjoy the game if that's not a part of the game they like.
Yeah.
So that's the other side of the jump potion for me. That's the only thing I don't know how it'll affect. But all I know is if a company can go, well, this person will never play our game unless we have this, so let's get $60 out of them when they would have never paid a sub fee anyway. I can't fault the company.
I think they just need to have
that.
some kind of a summary cutscene, catch-up thing to explain how we got from point 1 to point 100 where we're at now.
How do you guys feel about raid content in general? Like, because trials are considered the introductories to raid because it's really the first 8-man content you'll get to experience. I mean, there's the 2 story dungeons at level 50, but fucking really. So it's really like Titan hard mode back in the day was your gatekeeper to actual raiding. And it's still sort of that way where odds are you're going to take on an extreme primal unless you're like with a hardcore group that knows we don't need to fight this guy. We can just go into the raid kind of deal. So how do you feel about raiding in general? Like, where's your interest level in that?
I love it. I wish I had more time for it. It's like the one thing I loved when I played the shit out of WoW. It's just like it was always about raiding. Raid night, have fun with it, enjoy it, get your friends out, and just everyone gets on Ventrilo and just has a hoot.
A lot of the time for me, WoW raids didn't end up being hoots because the guilds were full of power-hungry people and stupid people.
Oh, the drama of guilds.
The drama of raids. I had no patience for that crap.
Oh no, that.
We had like loot priorities for like, oh, we've got our DPS warriors here, we've got our tank warriors here, and we had our tank warriors getting some of the DPS gear, and I'm like, I could really use that stat stick. I could use that gun. That's a huge crit up for my character, but it's going to one of our tanks for some reason. What's the point of that? We had a main tank who didn't know how effective Demoralizing Shout and Thunderclap were. I had to explain, as the DPS warrior, I had to explain this stuff to my raid. We had the most renowned warrior on our server coming along on our raids. And when I was talking about this stuff over Vent, he was like, this guy knows his stuff. You guys need to be listening to him. And I was like, thank you, please. Well, someone actually understands this.
It goes back to what we were saying earlier, though, with how do you teach the player how to play their class in a social game? So then you don't
without offending them.
Without offending them. It's like, you're dumb, you don't know how to play your class, get better. And then they're like, it's a healing problem. It's not my fault, bro.
And then one of the Thunder Fury bindings went to this tank. I was mad. I was super mad at that point. I was like,
Thunder Fury, Blessed Blade of the Windseeker?
There it is.
Did somebody say Thunder Fury, Blessed Blade of the Windseeker?
I knew I shouldn't have mentioned it.
Somebody's gotta say Thunder Fury, Blessed Blade of the Windseeker now.
Oh,
I'm
my
not
God.
saying it.
No, but our chats will. Okay.
Our chats will.
/me or /color orange /me.
I like the idea of raids overall. I like the idea of content where you need a lot of these people working together, but it brings all of that drama and it brings all of that necessity of people knowing what they're doing. And sometimes, like, you might have this person knows what they're doing on this run, but then on the next run they're screwing up a bunch. But on that run, the person that was screwing up before is all of a sudden doing well. And it's just getting all these pieces in the right place at the right time and not feeling like you can do anything about it while you're just sitting there beating your head against the wall. Like, please, God, everyone, just get it together for one run. We have this. Everyone knows what they're doing. How can I make you people not do this thing, screw it up on this run because you didn't on the last run?
Well, that's still present in 14, but 14, one of their big things is trying to keep it... Their hard difficulty raids are at 8 people. The reason being that more people to fuck up does not make for a better raid. Which is, I very much agree with that. That's why I was so happy when WoW brought their raid sizes down from 40 to 25. And now they have Flex, but Mythic is always 20.
Yeah. And then for me, I remember one time we were doing... I can't remember what fight it was in Molten Core. It was a big rock guy, I think, and it was literally 5 people alive at the end of the fight that took him from like 40% to 0. And it's like, that's all that you needed was that number of people to be competent to finish the fight. Everyone else that was there was basically filler.
That was also Molten Core back in day one when you could have someone rezzing outside of combat too during the fight. And like a lot of those fights, like later on, you could end up doing that whole instance with the decked out gear from that instance in like 2 hours. When before it was all about the learning process of how do you end up cooperating with people in your party, how do you end up it was the introduction to how do you cooperate with people. It really was. And as people understood it more, a lot of people had a little bit more of I want to say not an understanding for other people or a tolerance for people that didn't understand it. So again, it's they already went through that learning process. So why should I have to worry about other people again that have not gone through this learning process? It's the essence of backseat gaming, really. It's just like, come on, bro. Like, I already know this, so you should know this. Do better, and that kind of sucks that exists. That again, there's a lack of understanding that this is brand new content. This person has never experienced this, and again, that's where what we were talking about earlier. Create a hall to go and explain that information. Educate the players so then they're going into this, I don't want to say hostile atmosphere, but atmosphere where people...
No, you can say hostile atmosphere, that's fine.
It's not inaccurate.
Hostile atmosphere where they're going to minimize the hostility. Because you can't force people to be kind. You can try and alleviate the problem by creating solutions to it instead. And just dumbing the game down is not a solution. That's just that ends up just hurting your player base at that point.
You know, when I think of talking about those old raids, man, I think of Original Nefarian, and hunters needing to bring like 20 bows.
Yeah. See,
Okay, so
that's
I have a
just-
different
that's just
effect.
bad mechanic. That's
I have a
just bad
different effect
mechanic.
per class, but for hunters, I'm gonna break your weapon. So,
It's just a bad mechanic.
awful.
oh, I accidentally had my sub sounds on. Whoopsie. Thank you for the sub, though. That was just really loud in people's ears. I normally keep my sub sounds off during this, and then I didn't by accident.
Oops.
Oops. Well, I just
Put it this way: the guilds that I was in, or guild that I was in for World of Warcraft, they weren't good enough to even finish Molten Core to make it up to Blackwing Lair. What was the 10 or 15 man?
Zul'Gurub, or
Okay,
Zul'Man.
Zul'Gurub.
Oh, Zul'Gurub was 20, yeah.
Okay, so then Zulaman. Yeah, that one, as the DPS tank in my DPS spec, they were making me. There was one of the fights in there, I think it was against the Panther aspect or something, where they made me do the tanking, the off tanking for that fight. And I was like, why? We literally have our off tank right there. What are you doing?
And then somebody pointed out the rogue mechanic on Nefarian was he would teleport you in front of him and then cleave you.
The tank just had to move like that 10, 20 degrees. They're good.
That's
They were
just
good.
funny, though, that there's like, it's like, hey, rogues, get over. Get shit on. Great raid mechanics.
Oh, man.
All right. Anyway,
Yes.
it's this. So because we only got to play 5 hours, obviously, it's not like 11 when we did 11, where there was kind of a lot you could tell in those 6 hours that we played. You got to see everything that went from an archaic MMO doing its best to be modern to a modern MMO being modern. How do we feel about Final Fantasy sort of approaching the modern MMO genre, as opposed to when it clearly didn't have this experience before it had to kind of just learn from everything around it?
I feel like it's the best MMO on the market right now. I'm sub to it for a reason. It's not just because I have friends playing it. It's all of the good things about modern MMOs, the way that there's so much to do. You've got your one character that can level up all these different jobs. I like that aspect of it, just sticking with one guy. And in addition to all this, they've tacked on a really good story as well. And I feel like even just their community representation, like when they come out, the live letters, things like that, I think they do that the best out of any MMO right now.
What about you, Morag?
It's interesting because WoW has kind of been that main headrunner of, I would say, innovation in the MMO market. They're the ones they've kept the name and they've revamped their entire system.
Time and time again. Every expansion, pretty much.
Over the 13 years that they've been out, 12, 13 years they've been out now, they change that game up at least every 2 years or so. And they create brand new systems, some good, some bad. And your sister MMOs end up pulling from this system as well, too. And to go and see what 14 is doing now, I'd still say that they're kind of 2 versions behind where WoW is at this point, and that they are ultimately going to end up getting to where WoW is. Because I think WoW is doing the right thing, whereas 14 is still kind of falling behind. But at that same point, what is the market that 14 is aiming at? Are they trying to aim at the brand new player to MMOs?
Yes, a new MMO player in general.
A new MMO player in general? And they're going to have to keep up. WoW's going to suck.
I don't totally agree. I think WoW did a lot of right things with their most recent expansion, with Legion, but they screwed up a lot of things as well. I actually paid for a 6-month sub to it because I thought, yeah, of course I'm going to be playing this for a while. And then I got the level cap, and then after I got the level cap, the way to do content, I do not like the design of it in that game. It's either Mythics, which requires getting a specific group of people for, pretty much, or the raid content. The only other option is to do their dailies, and they still have dailies. They still have quests that are just popping up every 10 or 12 hours, or however often they're popping up in that game.
But that would be twice daily.
But that's the thing, though.
Repeatable.
It depends on which ones pop up at what time. The way it's designed in Legion is that there's like 6 different zones, and each zone has a group of quests, and then those quests will pop up in another 36 hours. So you finish the ones in this zone, but then when you're done with those, the ones in this zone are coming up in another 10 hours. And it's just always cycling through all these quests, and it's just the most boring, mundane, shitty content.
But you know who we have to blame for that?
Ourselves?
We have just players. We have every single player, but I'm not going to say every single player. I'm going to blame the casuals at this one.
Hey, wait a minute.
Because you know why? You know why? Every goddamn mobile game, man. Every goddamn mobile game is that way. It's hurry up and wait content, time-gated content, and it... I'm sorry, not meaning to call it every casual, but it sucks
when
because...
you say casual, you mean those who can only play X amount of hours a day.
Yeah, because that's all the developers have to develop content for. Because they're still paying the monthly sub, they're still gonna buy all the content, and they stay happy. As soon as you end up putting out a lot of this hard content, and this is where WoW tried to find that difference in making really hard content, making the medium content, but it was still needed group activities. So it's keeping those people happy, and it's still trying to keep everyone else happy down below. But that's one of the big things with WoW, is that they took all that easy content and put time caps on it, so then people didn't feel like they were falling behind, that were just playing the game here and there, because that's all the time they had for. And it sucks. Like I can't get mad at that. I can get mad at me because I want more, but I can't, because I'm being wristed and dragged along this content.
Is that why you liked Palace of the Dead? There's nothing time gated about it.
I love Palace of the Dead for that reason, man. It's so cool. I want to play more of it because there was nothing gated.
He's very passionate about this. Left us both speechless. I was like,
I hate gated content.
I know you do. Which is weird, because you played during vanilla, didn't you? And it wasn't time gated, but it was fucking effort gated to the next level.
That's why I had to stop playing, is because of the time gate on all those quests. Like, this is bullshit, and I was out. But I enjoyed how all the character interactions, the building of your character worked. That part I thought was amazing. Minus no auto attacks, that can go to hell.
I mean, with the reason, so we got into this kind of because we were talking about instanced content in general and the way 14 handles it, and I wanted to get you. I think I've gotten more than enough of your thoughts on how it does. But one of the big things 14's regularly criticized for by its own players is its lack of content that exists out in the world, the uselessness of the world itself past telling you the story. They introduced the hunt some time ago, where occasionally, like, mini bosses spawn out in the world, but what it comes down to, and I forgot to close the other notification thing, so Kefka just laughed in everyone's face. At least it's Kefka, so no one's that confused by it. The other aspect of it is that basically what happens is 200 people show up and spank this thing over, and then it's done. And I know WoW has open world bosses that have slightly higher tiered rewards, but it's basically the same way.
Yeah, they try to find
still.
That was one big thing that they wanted to do with this last expansion, was trying to find a way. And it's different bosses that spawn every time, and it actually spawns different quests that show up in the world as well too. Like it's really cool. Kill a boss and then have different events popping up in other parts of the world because you killed X world boss that pops up, and they're kind of half random, half scripted for what actually is going to be showing up. But it's like WoW has always tried doing that world boss thing. Like I remember, like day one when it wasn't Malagos, Zergos popped on my server. Everyone went there and crashed the server.
We've had a few server crashes thanks to Odin back in the day.
It's like how do you scale that? God, I remember Odin day one when people were trying to get in there and get in the fight just to tap the mob. Holy shit! It was like it was bad. It wasn't FPS. It was SPF, seconds per frame. Just trying to walk through that place.
Second per frame. Good old seconds per frame.
But it's interesting though, of trying to find ways again to create scaling content for a very social group of people. Do you gate it? Do you instance it? How do you create a very organic world to it too as well? Again, this is where Korean MMOs have been doing this for years. Have different ships, your different sub-servers to your main server, so people could actually walk into it and do different stuff on that. And then you have your friend, hey, I'm on server 7 on this main server, or ship 7 on this server. And I don't know, WoW tried to alleviate that through phasing.
Didn't work the same.
It doesn't work the same, and it sucks trying to find friends, and then sometimes you find that there's no
like
one.
I'm standing right next to you. Oh shit! Did you not complete that quest over on the west yet? Nope. Well, you're standing next to me, but you're in a different plane of existence.
Yeah, so people are trying different ways to do it, but there's going to be no one knows the perfect solution yet to scale technically How do you scale it?
Well, the other problem with scaling is if you're going to scale something based on how many people, you're now throwing out the modifier of their skill levels. So you naturally have to scale it to just about your average player and allow the above average players and the below average players to even out the difficulty of the boss in the end. And that's the difficult part of balancing, of why you can't just say, hey, there's 200 people here. Make the boss hard as if 200 people were here. Mm-hmm. And then if 190 of those players are level 1s, you're like, well, shit. Especially with Odin, who level 60 in a low-level area most of the time. So, and I mean, the main reason I ask about that is because they kind of want to approach that in the next Final Fantasy XIV expansion as well, but not with open world content, with an area that feels more open world. For Eureka, the Forbidden Land.
Mm-hmm.
And they want to do things like bosses that spawn every 3 days, or a boss that spawns once a day, or asking you to group up with 7 other players to work on. They want to replace the relic weapon with quests in the Eureka, the Forbidden Land, in line with Final Fantasy III, it being a place of sealed weapons and magic. And there's a lot of discussion over, does that actually alleviate the whole feel of the world not being dangerous enough, or is it just another instance that doesn't feel like it's in a world?
If it's one area just sectioned off by itself, it's going to have that.
And that's the other question, because all the zones in 14 are all instanced from each other. There's the same thing as well. How do you create something that feels open world when all of these instances are separated from each other? You basically are just determining, when you just go in dungeon versus raid versus trial, what is the objective of that instance you're in. And in most open world zones, it's just, is there a quest I'm doing here, or is there something that spawned here? And that's the difficulty. I wanted to get your perspective on open world content and how MMOs, or how 14 could approach it in general, because everything we did was instanced this weekend. No, we literally teleported 3 places, and then we went into a bunch of instances.
Well, you ended up saying that that fates are not really a big thing anymore. Like,
no, and even when they were fates world building? Would you consider them world? You thought they were, Slack?
It gave each area a reason to exist, at least.
Yeah, and like, you could end up scaling those with, like, if it was, say, a zone that's not super duper populated and someone still wanted to end up leveling with said fates, you get NPCs that spawn and actually do damage and kill the fate with you. As long as you have some sort of bar that progresses based off of the people that are in there, speeds up, slows down. Like, there's one person in the fate zone and you kill one mob, that takes out 10%. I don't know. It's like little stuff like that you could just find ways to make it feel like you're helping the content if it's just you or 20 people that are doing it.
They sort of have a way of doing that now, but it's based on how many people were there the last time it was completed and how quickly it respawns. It follows like a formula. Like, oh, well, 100 people participate in this fate, and this fate spawns every 10 minutes. What are the odds that there's less than 100 people 10 minutes from now? Like, what are the odds that there's a huge population flux, as opposed to 100 people are here? Well, now it's going to actively scale.
I feel that it needs to be a little bit more proactive than that.
Okay. And we still haven't really addressed the whole open world feel. I mean, fates. You do think fates are world progressing? Do you feel that 14 needs more world progressing content versus just new content?
I can't really comment on that, because all I know is the 2.0 stuff for world content.
Yeah. And based on that, let's just put it this way: that structure from 2.0 hasn't changed necessarily. While there's like Palace of the Dead and Hunts now, that general structure of content has not necessarily changed greatly.
This is going back to one of the issues that I had with 14 in general, is that I felt that the world itself didn't feel very big. It didn't feel expansive. The maps felt very small in some aspects. Even if you take a look at the world map, there's 6-7 main points, and inside of those, it was 4 maps, I think, 4 to 6 maps in each of those main points. So when you're going from zone to zone, it only feels like there's 7 different environments in the entire world, minus the cities themselves. And even then, the cities still kind of match the atmosphere of the outer zone too, which again, that you need to have that. But it just felt so extreme jumping from zone to zone to zone. But then you add in that fluff in between zones, and you still have to fill it with something. And that there alone is more design and development. Like, how do you fill those medium zones to make everything feel like they flow together and you have an expansive world? So when you start putting and filling up more of these zones, because Fates as themselves made the zones still feel pretty full. As soon as you start putting bigger world content in there that are spawning in very few zones, now you make the world feel even smaller, even more apparently smaller, and that it just feels forced. So, like, because again, 1.0 has had a fairly big world. Final Fantasy 11, the world is ginormous with its maps, like it's almost obscene how big they are. With WoW, you had 2 full big continents, and even then, as soon as you go in and play any of the current expansions, the zones still feel pretty damn big as well too, minus flying, which made it feel really tiny. But going back to 14, everything just felt extremely tiny and small. That's all. Did I prefer 1.0 maps over 2? To a very small point, I did like 1.0 maps a little bit, minus the copy paste.
That copy paste is a lot. Those maps.
It was a lot. But
it's a lot of those maps.
They felt more expansive. They felt like there was
they were expansive, all right.
They felt like there was a reason.
They're expansive like a desert in the Middle East.
But it's still, you had a reason from going from point A to point B versus just there's content in this. It's they create a world and then they're trying to fill it. Versus here, they created content and then they put the world around it. That's what 14 feels like.
That's a good way of putting it. What about you, Slack? How do you feel about the need for more open world content or world building content?
I find it really hard to say until I get up to 60 and start doing the content there and feeling like what I'm supposed to be doing, because once I get there, am I going to be bothered by the fact that I'm like essentially stuck in a hub while I wait for queues and so on? It's definitely something that the game is lacking, but I don't know if I feel like it's something that the game needs right now.
Okay. That is a much shorter way than what MMORAG was.
Sorry.
that answer was adequate.
Just ignore everything I said. Just take that last sentence.
Oh yeah, I'll get those 15 minutes back.
Way ahead of you on ignoring all that.
It's all right, Morag. We still love you, I think. All right, I'm just looking for any more points that I feel that you as returning players could give us a more fresh perspective, because that's kind of my big thing. Is I play it every day, so I don't need to talk about it that much today.
Yeah.
You guys have just sort of returned. Morag returned Saturday. Slack started returning a couple months ago, but it's been like a slow process because of all the other responsibilities. Don't smile like you're embarrassed about it. We had count out.
Well, no, there was responsibilities, and there was the content that I had to get through.
Yeah, the content you had to get to before you even wanted to stream it.
Yeah.
It's actually kind of funny. Now, just thinking about the whole experience of 14, playing then and playing now, coming into the game, it felt like there was just content everywhere, but the world felt so tiny. I think that's the big thing. There was content everywhere to be played. You could go through it. It was just simple. Talk to the quest dude, go out and follow it. Do your quests or do your content. It was very condensed, very put together in such a small area.
So then let's knock this point home with one. I'm going to start with Slack on this one before I let Morag go. Just because stupid duck. So why is that so funny? Stupid duck. Anyway, so one of the big things is people talking about instances. A lot of people talk about World of Warcraft and how the ability to queue with people across servers may have also done damage to the world building aspect. Slack, you'll get to talk about it in a second, because the words, like, it looks like the words are leaving your mouth already, but you're waiting. Okay. In 3.5, they're adding a cross-server party finder. Now, the duty finder is what we use, but the party finder allows you to make almost like a little message board, and people can join via the message board. And there's one of those for every server. They added the raid finder, which lets you queue in to the end game raid specifically across your data center, which was Primal in our case the other day, with Fanfrit's on the Primal data center. The crossover party finder is a party finder that works across the entire data center. So it allows you to form pre-made parties across the entire data center. Does that help or harm the world building aspect by creating that much less of a need to interact with your own world and the people around you, and more just interacting with other servers?
I think one of the reasons it works for WoW, to at least to why it was a not bad implementation there, is because of the world quests, aka the dailies. That gives you an incentive. You're still going out there in your world. You can still explore it on your own. There are world quests where you need to be grouped up to go and do them together. and you can group together with people on your server, or you can just go there and hope that a bunch of people show up that are going to do it because it's a big, important world quest. Here, you don't get a lot of the fates are similar to the world quest, but you don't really need to do them all that much for anything. I personally like the idea of grouping up with people from other servers. It de-incentivizes you from needing to pay for a character transfer just to go and play with your friends if they're on a different server right then. I am all for the idea, and if it creates some problems, working on those problems afterwards.
I would like to also point out, along with this feature, they're releasing a mobile phone app that allows you to speak to your link shell and your free company from your phone.
Really?
Yes.
That's pretty cool.
So, I don't know what else the functionality that app is going to have. I think they said eventually they want you to be able to check your retainers or your squadrons from it, but that it's like probably not going to be possible for a pretty long time on some of those things. Morag, cross-server party finder, go.
So again, this is just going to be for instance content, right?
Right. You can only use this for anything that is instance. You cannot use it to queue into, like, to go, hey, let's group up and go do fates together. That's not instance content.
So two benefits to this. One, if you to queue faster into instanced content, it's going to make it faster. Number two, if you have friends that are playing on other servers on your data center, it's going to allow you to do instanced content with them. So is it going to end up helping world content? No, not in any way. There's zero benefit to doing anything with this with world content. So what is their focus on? If they want to focus on world content and they want to put this in, which I'm fine with, it's going to end up helping people do instance. But just like everything else, players are going to find the easiest way in order to increase their levels and have enjoyment in the game. So if they start going and concentrating on making the queue faster, people are just going to go and do that content over and over and over and over if there's zero effort put into world content, people aren't going to do it. So are they going to start splitting off the ideas in the dev, some into instance, some into world content then? It's going to be up to their dev team to come up with that balance. If they want to have a way for developer or for the players to choose how they play their game. Because if not, we're just going to have another, and this is what I've always worried about instance content, is we're going to have a Diablo game. It's just instances over and over, just running the same.
I love Greater Rifts.
Same content over and over and over. It's going to be another Phantasy Star Online. Exact same thing. It's going to be like most Korean MMO mobile phone games where you log into your one little city, you see everyone standing around, and then you queue up for a dungeon. Like that's all it is. What do you want to concentrate on? What is your? Do you want an expansive world with content in it, or do you just want your instance content? And I think that's where a lot of MMOs are kind of falling off.
I think Diablo 3 is the biggest warning of too much to instance stuff. It's like, you could be Diablo 3 right now. It's like, whoa, we need to step back. We need to not create that situation. Because I actually really love Diablo 3 with Reaper's Souls. It's a really good game, but it has a problem of being very, very, very monotonous.
I'm assuming you're referring to bounties leading into Greater Rifts.
Yeah. Doing Torment, 14 Greater Rifts over and over and over and over, and that being the only content of the game at that point.
Okay. All right. I'm quite happy with the discussion that we've managed to have. Yeah, and it's your name too. It's your name too.
Your name is my name too.
Name count.
Stop it.
So
No.
I think the last thing that I would want to talk about is 2 monks or 1 monk, 1 dancer.
2 monks. So you want to know what's funny? In this interview, they specifically say
Well, that's why I'm bringing it up.
In this interview, they specifically say that the male, who's the Warrior of Light, that his armor is the monk artifact armor for the expansion. But they're not even asked about it, and they do not comment on the female character.
Mm-hmm.
Morag, why are you laughing?
I'm just laughing because it just perpetuates the entire thing.
They're like, yeah, the warrior. They're like, can you tell us more about the cutscene that you showed us? It's like, oh, the Warrior of Light that's in that. Yeah, that's the monk AF gear. And
Next question.
Yeah, and then they're just like, is there anything else you want to say? No.
No, that covers it.
I love how coy they're being. It's so good. So
No.
awesome.
No, I mean, so how coy they're being is when he refers to the shirts, like they're not job reveals. Where he's like, yeah, I wore that Batman shirt at FanFest 2 years ago because I like Christopher Nolan's Batman. I didn't know the job was coming out. It has nothing to do with it. Just like the Scarlet Witch.
So I didn't know that about the Batman thing. Is that what really happened?
Yeah, he said.
Okay.
They said we're not going to tell you about the jobs, but I think Yoshi P, what kind of shirt are you wearing today? And he's wearing a Dark Knight shirt, and Batman the Dark Knight.
All right, hearing that now, I know why everybody was like, he's wearing a Scarlet Witch shirt. Means Red Mage. I was like, what? Where the hell are you getting?
Yeah,
that?
they did. Basically, they said,
doing?
He said we're not going to tell you any jobs, and then Yoshi P's like, it's really hot in here. Man, I wore a DC shirt 2 years ago, so now I'm wearing a Marvel shirt. I just really like comics. And what was even funnier is after they revealed Dark Knight as a job, I came out in a 007 shirt for Machinist. So he was like, yeah, because he's got gadgets and guns and stuff like that. So I was like, yeah, I don't know, I really like movies. I swear, somebody just gave this to me before I got on stage. I was just like, it's cool, I'll wear it. It's everybody. Yeah, that's Yoshi P in a nutshell. All right, there's a million things I could ask you about in this interview still, because it was an 8-page interview that was translated from Japanese to English. But I feel like those are key points that specifically hit a new or returning player. Things like the jump potion and whatnot. Overall, how much longer do you two anticipate yourselves playing Final Fantasy XIV, and do you have any anticipation of... Because 15 will be out in a few weeks, single-player game. When you're done with it, you're done with it. 14 is kind of a game you can always go back to as a Final Fantasy game. Do you see yourself playing the expansion? Do you see playing it a good amount prior to the expansion launching? Where do you guys stand on it after your experiences this last week?
Yes.
I want time to stop so I can play it. I just want time to stop.
But if time stops, the expansion doesn't come out. You know that, right?
Then time can continue again, and then I'll come back. Then right now,
it's gonna be really funny. Someone's gonna be like, "Wow, look, Morag's level 12. What the fuck? He's 60."
Just not enough time of the day to do everything I want, man.
Yeah, I see myself playing more 14 going forward. I see myself playing it at least into the new expansion, and then depending on how long it holds my interest after that, I'll keep playing.
Well, then it would interest you both to know that the next letter from the producer live is November 25th, and it will be part 1 of the patch 3.5 preview.
Nice.
Some things we're expecting: Zervan, the Demon of the Warring Triad, the finale of the Warring Triad series. We have Sephiroth, the Fiend. They completely troll you, because that's his name, according to what's-his-face who made 6. But the name of the achievement for beating Sephiroth is Veni Veni Venius. So they're assholes.
So mean.
We had Sophia the Goddess this last patch. And then we have Zervan the Demon. We're going to be seeing the Proto Ultima fight, the 24-man Proto Ultima fight from Fan Festival, which they said might be a slight bit harder than it was at FanFest, because random people at a convention probably tone it down a notch, a little bit.
I've always imagined that they just nerfed all those encounters by like 50%, 40% at least.
Something
damage.
like that. I don't know. We're also going to be seeing the finale of the Hildebrand side story quests, which if you haven't messed with at all, I highly recommend you do. It's a very big piece of comedy and nostalgia when it comes to Final Fantasy, the Hildebrand side story quests. He's the gentleman inspector, and he does this a lot. A lot. And it has Gilgamesh and Ultros and Typhon and a bunch of other characters.
I need to do that quest. Yeah, I need to do the Gilgamesh stuff.
Reminds me of some of like the really good World of Final Fantasy cutscenes that involved the Cactuar and all of them.
Just the Tonberry, the Cactuar, and the... Yeah.
Oh, those 3. Oh, God, that was so good.
Yeah. So that the Heavensward finale of that... and there's, again, some important characters that you'll recognize from other Final Fantasies mixed up in there. What else do we have? We have probably part 1 of the finale of the main story. Last time they did 2.5, 2.55. We assume it'll be similar here, 3.5, 3.55. Leading into the expansion, we have the finale of the 24-man raid series, the Shadows of Mach, which went from the Void Ark to the Weeping City of Mach, and now we'll probably go to the Fortress of Shadows as the final tier. You have a few more dungeons. You have... I'm missing a few things. You have the reintroduction of the Diadem, or the exploratory zones, which was a complete failure back in 3.1. So they're revamping it and re-releasing it and seeing how they gauge people's interest in it. And a bunch of other stuff. And you get details on that November 25th. So be on the lookout. And next fan festival, the Japanese one for the expansion details, is December 24th and 25th. So Merry fucking Christmas. That's all I gotta say.
I'm looking forward to that. Yeah. What kind of an ETA do you think for the expansion right now?
Early summer 2017 says June.
Okay.
With the last major patch before that being January. That's where the current estimations lie. Just after New Year. Now, while I would love to talk about 14 more, part of Count Up is talking about 15. This last week, something big happened with 15.
Really? No, people didn't talk about that nonstop for the last few days. What are you talking about?
On the Japanese PlayStation Store, something called Judgment Disc was made available. And it is the first half of Chapter 1 of Final Fantasy 15 put into the first, I'd say the first real demo the game has actually gotten. Because Episode to Sky was not widely available, and it was bare bones. Platinum Demo was a technical demonstration. And in the only real demo, outside of like a PAX, on the Japanese PSN only.
Yeah.
Have you two gentlemen had the pleasure?
No.
I played about an hour so far, and I'm happy. The combat it's there. I'm looking forward. It doesn't feel as actiony as I was expecting, which I'm very happy because I didn't want a full-blown action game. I still wanted to have, that choice to be able to feel like I'm making commands in a combat system, which it still felt like I was doing, but I still had full control over it, and then it wasn't about placement, a major point about placement, and just because I'm in point A or point B, I'm going to get fully screwed over. Now, granted, I'm not talking about like actually being in water, lightning goes off.
Yeah, oh no, definitely not being in water with the duck.
Like, what that duck? Anyway, the big thing is that it was still enjoyable as an action game that they're trying to advertise it as.
Slack, do you have any intentions of playing it prior to the launch, even if just for an hour?
No, I'm trying to keep the game fresh for myself. So even if it's the first half of chapter 1 for 15, I don't want to touch it because I want to go into chapter 1 pretty much completely blank, which sucks because I really want to demo the game as well. But I really just want.
What if
to
you
go
just
into
skip
it
all the
totally
cutscenes?
Like, honestly, I'd play just to get a feeling of the game and just see how pretty it is. Like, it was all in Japanese. I don't know what was being said. And plus, it was the only stuff I ended up seeing is the same stuff that was in that 1 hour thing that was released like 2 months ago.
50-minute video, yeah.
Yeah, like that. I didn't even get through all that content.
Yeah.
That 50-minute video goes past chapter 2, just to be clear. For anyone wondering what that pertains, I believe the first half of chapter 1 is done by 19 minutes in to that. That's not a surprise. Shut up. They even show the chapter 2 thing in
Still
that
not
video.
listening to you.
Did you not watch it?
I watched it. I'm kidding.
Okay.
So you have just play like an hour.
No, I'm not going to play it.
You've already seen it.
And that one was in English.
No,
This one
I have
isn't.
let myself forget that. If I play it myself, it's going to
You'll
stick in my
never
memory
forget
more.
it. He'll never forget.
As it is, I don't remember that much about the video aside from the things that it made me think about the game. Not the specifics of it. Like, I remember that, there's the level up grid. Stuff like that.
Somebody sent me a full translation of all the Ascension grids.
I posted in your chat that morning.
That was you?
Yeah.
I think somebody else did it too.
Someone else must have.
I think somebody else did it before you did. Because I think, but here's the thing. I don't think I clicked on the first persons. I think when you linked it to me is when I first clicked it. Because I said, I don't need to know that. And then by the time you did, I was like...
Yeah, actually, that is true because I don't know if someone linked it, but someone said that there is full translations up on the subreddit. So I went to subreddit. Yeah. They only had translations for the final video, which I don't want to watch because I guess it was super spoilerific.
Yes.
And then there was the full grids, which actually I kind of I want to look over them. I do.
The Ascension grid I loved. Like what was available on the Ascension grid?
What would you compare it to?
I would compare it more to a license board than I would to a Crystarium or a Sphere grid. Because by the end of the game, you will have, if you really want to, you will have everything on those Ascension grids. The decisions are what you make.
Ascension grids the same for every character.
So the way the Ascension Grid works now is it's not every character has their own Ascension Grid. Okay. It's you have an Ascension Grid, and there across it can be abilities that are for Noctis. They can be abilities for Prompto, abilities for Ignis, etc.
Sort of the way that they did the Mist Awakenings.
Yeah. Yeah, but it works pretty well. There's a decent variety of the skills you're able to find for them, and the customization of the characters is good. Especially the custom. We don't even get to dive into the customization of the weapons, which was in the 1 hour thing that I played at PAX West. And there's a whole lot more that's still untouched in that demo that allows more character customization. So looking forward to that. Oh, by the way, my favorite part of the whole game is Prompto taking my YouTube thumbnail pictures for me. Because so what happens is Prompto takes random pictures when you're playing the game, and then at the end when you camp, he gives you all the pictures on a photo roll, and you can choose to save them or you can screenshot them with your share. And so there are also abilities that you know the team attacks. There's one where he just takes a picture, does nothing else. So you're basically saying, okay, Prompto, now.
Prompto, catch this attack right now!
And so I was like, thank you, Prompto, for taking all my YouTube thumbnail pictures for me, because that's basically what he's done. That's one of my favorite parts.
With all your bros, you got to find a way to brag later.
That's pretty much what it does.
Yeah.
It's great when everyone's. Some of them are really funny. You'll be like in the middle of a fight, and Ignis will stop and look at the camera and be like.
I'm glad that they're finding ways to like take like the goofiness that is been throughout the series and just make it so blatantly obvious.
Oh, don't worry. There's plenty of goofiness, like when you win a fight and Prompto goes da 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 da. Yep.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Endless goofiness. I was after that demo pretty much re-expresses why I made a video a few months back after playing it at PAX West, and I said I'm no longer concerned if this game's going to be a failure or not. It won't. There's no way it fails financially because it's built up the hype. Like 13 is regularly criticized, and that game was still like the third highest selling final
success. Yeah.
Yeah, that's gonna be fine. Final Fantasy 15, it's gonna be more than fun. Trust me.
It's like the whole hype, like even like the whole announcement with like the 13 points of Final Fantasy or the 15 points.
Yeah, the only problem was the whole release date changing after that event. That was
It didn't happen.
That was a bit of a problem.
It didn't happen.
Oops.
I would recommend.
We're not gonna get a day one patch
unless it's to fix glitches. Because there are a few glitches in the demo. I don't know if those are just for Judgment Disc or if those are.
There's no day one patch.
Morag, do you need to see a doctor?
Yeah, you got a problem with one of your eyes. Maybe both of them. It's kind of weird. It's kind of weird. I would recommend if you guys have a PS4 already, make a Japanese PSN account. You can Google how to do it in like 2-3 minutes and try it out if you're not like Slack. Even if you are like Slack, do it. It's in Japanese. You don't fucking know what's going on anyway.
Mr. Happy's like Slack and he did it, so.
Yeah, exactly. So he should know. He knows. So it means I can say everything about it. And and
I gotta go. Peace.
All right. Other than that, oh, by the way, one thing that's in the demo that I don't feel is spoiled. You can play Justice Monsters 5 in the demo, in the world of Final Fantasy 15 itself, and it gives us an idea of how the mobile game translates into that full game. And King's Knight will also be in there as well. So just keep those things in mind. There's plenty of little mini games for you to check out in the game itself, and I think that gives it a little bit of longevity. I'm looking forward to that. I want to do a full Justice Monsters 5 playthrough in Final Fantasy 15.
I did hear about some of the cool things in the demo, like a red sword of some kind.
Red sway hander?
Yeah.
That touches on the weapon customization. There's also 3 dungeons that were located. 4, technically. People know what the bosses are already. If you've been paying attention, they know what the names of the dungeons are, all that other stuff.
And then somebody today, I think it was, showed a picture of Edgar's chainsaw being in the game.
Are you sure it was the chainsaw, not the... Well, I mean, so the thing is, a lot of people are getting footage mixed up because there's a 15-hour review copy that's been available for some time now, and a lot of images from that review copy. I know that the auto crossbow and the chainsaw were both seen. The bioblaster, bioblaster is in the demo. I'll have to see if the chainsaw is locatable in the demo or if there's something else.
Yeah. Okay.
But overall, it's got a lot of nods to old Final Fantasies. It's got a lot of original feeling stuff, and the variety of the weapons just gets better the more and more we see of them, especially with Edgar's tools. all
2
being
weeks.
available. The Bioblaster, the Noise Blaster, the Chainsaw, all that stuff. It's great.
2
great.
weeks, and then we just
15
get
days till
crack out
15.
on it. 15 till 15, yep.
15 till 15. They tweeted that out today.
Yep.
And
I was actually going to make that joke, damn it.
well, they did, like,
Yeah,
way
I
this
know.
morning.
But I didn't see it, so I was just going to
Oh, and they showed how Carbuncle works in the demo also.
Oh, nice. What does
But-
he do?
Resurrects you when you die. And it gives you a Carbuncle buff for, like, a short time. At least that's what we
Alright.
think Carbuncle is for, because that's what happened to me. I was like, well, fuck, game over. And then all of a sudden I'm like, why am I not dead yet? And then I got Carbuncle's face next to my character, and I heard the little scree, and then I was alive at full health again. So I'm not sure exactly how it's gonna work, but that's what it felt like. That was Carbuncle. By the way, there's no in-game benefits to beating Judgment Disc when the full game comes out, especially because it's Japanese only. Just to be clear about that. Woof. Yeah, I would
You gotta make sure you go do the platinum demo.
Yeah, Platinum demo gets you Carbuncle, so go do that. You definitely want to go have even though we don't have much good to say about it, you'll be done with it in 30 minutes, and then you could just pretend like it doesn't exist and that this demo exists instead.
Yeah, don't use the combat in platinum.
Yeah, just
demo.
pretend like the combat of Platinum demo doesn't exist. Just and the driving, because the driving controls of Platinum demo are also not stellar. Not that they're
that's the one thing that I still kind of half criticize. No, I criticize for developers is like they want to get so much PR out, so they put demos out. No one puts out demos anymore. But even then, like through the adventures of Final Fantasy 15 over the past 2 years of their demos, no demo has actually felt complete in any way. And people like it sucks. It's just like you put this out, you're just kind of giving me not even a taste. You're just saying it exists. It's like you got a demo that actually.
And the one demo that does a good job of selling the game to you is only available in one region on one of the 2 systems that it's going to be available for.
Yeah.
Not a good idea. Really should release that before the game launches.
Yeah. Do you think they're going to put it out in English?
I really don't.
Why?
I just don't think they will. I just don't
They
think
didn't
they will.
already. I don't know that they will.
I would have expected it by tomorrow if it was going to come out in English. I don't know. That's just how I feel. We'll see. We'll see. World of Final Fantasy did have a nice demo. It had Cloud saying not interested.
No,
So
the World of Final Fantasy demo.
Well, the Final Fantasy's demo was very good.
Yes,
like,
it was.
it sold the game for me.
It sold me on it too.
Alright.
I knew I was already going to buy it, but once I played it, I was like, holy shit.
Yep.
I need this game now.
Yeah, and it ended up being a great platinum, especially for in anticipation for Kingdom Hearts 2.8, because this was 2.7 basically. I know that's how Slack feels. Kingdom Hearts 2.7, aka World of Final Fantasy. All right, there you go.
Minus the clunky
There's-
action
there's-
gameplay.
This is a perfect comment. It's silly. Demos are supposed to sell the game, right? I think the game is already sold for Japanese players. How about North American?
Yeah, exactly. Platinum demo's the last thing we got to play, and it was not a good way to... People aren't going to be like, oh man, 15's coming out. Are there any demos available? Oh, what's this Platinum demo? Well, that fucking sucked. I don't want to... I'm not playing that game.
They need to take Platinum demo
Just take it down.
down.
Just that's it. Sorry you missed Carbuncle, guys, but we got to take it down. That's
So the
it.
gameplay of the new demo is that much better?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I got to play. I got to
You
play it
guys
at
keep
PAX.
saying this.
I got to
I
play it at
gotta
PAX
know.
West, so I already knew this
Right.
was better. Because again, MMORAG says this is basically the PAX West demo, but like you can play it for longer. And none of your commands feel stunted by things like frame rate or monster animations or anything like that. Like you literally you flow between actions perfectly well. The only thing is like if you have a weapon with a really long charge time, obviously you can't just stop and dodge in the middle of that. But that's normal. That's the sacrifice that you took upon using that weapon.
Platinum demo felt like a really crappy action game. Like, you know, when I say action game, I mean like Bayonetta. If you think of Bayonetta as an action game, Platinum demo felt like a really bad action game. And seeing and feeling the gameplay of it now, it doesn't feel as actiony as Bayonetta, but it also still feels like every action you make has a purpose and a reason for it, and that you can still control the whole battlefield.
Oh yeah. When I was standing in the water and I froze it, that was a bad idea. My guy was just like,
Shit.
good, come on, leg. Yeah, Noctis was not happy when I did that to myself. Although the enemy was just as slow, it was just that his legs were still working. So there was a slight difference there.
Was he in the ice or on the ice?
He was on the ice.
Okay.
Yeah, but he was still slow because I hit him with an ice spell.
Yeah.
And then my teammates didn't like standing in the water when I used lightning spells.
I was just thinking of like a monster that's big enough that got frozen in the water, but that it could still move, and as it moved, it was breaking the ice.
No, and it takes a pretty severe spell to freeze. Like I had to use all 99 of my my blizzard points to make a spell that could freeze the water to that degree. And that's another big thing. We didn't really touch on it. Magic in this game, we've spoken about it before. It's like it took the draw system and a crafting system and put them together. Getting to explore that has been fantastic. I found a spell, and somebody revealed this to me, with an item called an unusual coin. When you mix it into your spells and you hit an enemy with it, it increases the amount of EXP the enemy drops. And it was a fantastic amount of experience that it gave me when I used that. And there's just a lot of ways. Heal Fyra was another one where you could make it so that the fire spell would hit the enemy but heal allies. Or you can make them affect, like you can make it burn tar like quicker, or you can make it explode as opposed to just lighting it on fire. It felt like they wanted you to appreciate the magic, and they wanted you to pick the magics that you wanted to use, as opposed to giving you 50 spells and only 10 of them work. They'll give you 50 spells, and you get to determine how you want to use them, but they're all there for a reason. And you get to pick which ones you want to craft based on your playstyle, so you don't have useless spells. You're not just carrying around a spell for no reason. You're only using the spells you want to because you chose to make them.
Interesting.
And you can give your allies magic as well. If you want to. I don't trust them.
What kind of parameters do they use it under?
That's what I don't know. That's why I don't trust them with it, because I can't read any of the Japanese, so I don't.
Yeah.
I don't trust them with anything except for secondaries. That's about it. It was a pleasure. I loved it, and I can't wait, and I just wish there were more secrets for me to find so I had an excuse to keep playing it. That's it. I wish there was.
2 weeks.
2 weeks. That's it. 2 weeks. And we will be there, gentlemen. We will be there.
2 more count-up casts.
2 more count-up casts, and we will be there. I can't wait. But on that note, everybody, we're gonna wrap things up for this week. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining. I'm glad we get to do this. I'm gonna be sad when it's over in 2 weeks. Just reminded me. I'm gonna be sad that I don't get to bully Slack anymore.
That's all right. You can just come over and do it in my stream.
That's true. I'll just tweet at Martin. I'll be like, hey, Martin, Slack's just turned to stream on. Hey,
Poke
the bear.
The bear.
Gotta poke the bear. Always poke the bear. I tell my chat not to poke the bear. Thankfully, he likes upsetting Slack more than any of us. So, yeah.
Oh,
effective.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, effective. Okay. So anyway, gentlemen, where can our streams find you at for the 2 streams that aren't watching your 3rd stream?
Twitch.tv/tehMorag. Finishing up Chrono Cross. Gonna play some Lost Odyssey. And I've never played Lost Odyssey. I've only been told good amazing things about it. And then possibly Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles.
We couldn't get the netplay working.
Oh, yeah, I couldn't get netplay working over. It's too laggy. I tried.
I know.
Netplay is not.
It's weird that netplay. It's weird that netplay works so well for like the Smash. Like if you see like people who stream like Smash Melee, they use netplay all the time. It works perfectly fine.
Yeah.
But not for you, Morag. Not for you. Slack.
I blame the other thing.
You can find me slackaholicus.tv, twitter.com/slackaholicus. I'm actually probably going to take a little bit of a break today. I have a lot of off-stream stuff that I need to work on. I think tomorrow I'm going to be doing my Final Fantasy Mystic Quest 1 sit.
Nice.
Wednesday I will likely be taking it off because I have an appointment. And then Thursday I'm going to be doing the Dark Aeons and Penance.
And I am the other guy, Slack's better half, Mr. Happy.
Better at what?
Better at platinuming World of Final Fantasy. That's all I got.
I'm sorry.
Better at actually playing the 15 demo. Golf clap. I've had a few interesting streams. I had to skip Sunday, but I'll probably touch 10-2 a little bit this week just because it was what my subs voted on. It doesn't exist, so basically it means I'm canceling my stream that day. That was the whole joke of why we canceled Sunday, actually. Just kidding. Today I got to play a game called Twin Saga. I did a sponsored stream for an MMO called Twin Saga. It was actually a lot of fun. I'm usually pretty skeptical about free-to-play MMOs, but I actually had a lot of fun. My chat seemed to enjoy it. One of my favorite things about it is just like 14, it's the first other MMO I played where you can play every class on the same fucking character. And any MMO that does that is always a plus in my book. And by the way, it was a free-to-play game. No, you did not have to buy the ability to switch classes. No, you didn't have to buy the ability to respec. So again, winner in my book when it comes to a free-to-play game.
That's another one of the things I like a lot in 14. It's like I'm always progressing this character, so
I don't need to make
have to worry
5
about
characters. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Pokemon this week.
That was the other thing. I'm playing Pokemon on Friday. Hello, streamable 3DS that I haven't used since Final Fantasy Explorers.
Yeah, I've got mine sitting back there, but I'm not going to have time for that.
Yeah.
I've got
know
Yeah.
if I'm playing it yet.
Quest in 10. and
I'm
then
just playing it because it's like, I don't give a shit about IVs, EVs, Ditto, whatever. I'm just playing it, and then 15 comes out, and I'm done playing Pokemon. Like, that's it. It's a time killer at best. And tomorrow, I'm going to be on Twitch front page, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. I am going to play the 15 demo during that time. I feel like it's a good place to play the 15 demo.
I agree.
But other than that, next week, what's on the docket for next week? Because you're the one who came up with all the ideas.
It was. I might want to refresh it, but it's talking about what we see out of the future of Final Fantasy.
Future of Final Fantasy? All right. So next
Like,
week...
where are they going after to 15? What's going to happen?
Where are they going
are they
after
going?
Final Fantasy 15? Why do I feel like I scrolled right the fuck past it? Oh, because I did, because I'm looking at my messages and not looking at your messages. There we go. Yeah, the future of the series with everything we've experienced so far, and then November 28th, we have Final Fantasy 15 prep discussion.
Yep, movies, anime, everything we know that's been pushed out.
Very, very animu. Okay, there we go. All right, so everyone, thank you for joining us this week. We will see you next week where we talk about the future of Final Fantasy. Make sure to follow all 3 of us, because I'm talking to 3 streams right now, and we'll see you then. Take care. That wink is from Slack also.
Mwah.
The wink and the...
The kiss is only from me, though.
Yeah, no, the kiss is only from him. I'm not into that shit.